It's hard to know if it would seem like you seem like a guy who likes being in Hollywood or doesn't like being in Hollywood, I guess.
There's things I really like about it and things I really don't like.
Yeah.
Right. And I wish they didn't have to be together, but they are. Right. Like, it's kind of life. You got to take the good with the bad. I don't really like to do big social events or go out much. I'm kind of shy. I don't really want to be on camera. Certainly when I'm like in my regular life and I'm walking around in my, whatever, underwear and t-shirt and stuff, I don't want people looking at me. I have my family and my kids and my life. I wish that were more private. I don't know how many people really want to be sort of scrutinized in that way, but I really like making movies and I like telling those stories. And so, look, the truth is I always knew that was kind of a part of it. And so, I deal with it. There's things I don't love about this business, a lot of them. It can make you kind of crazy, it can record, and there's stuff that's just no fun for me, like, events and shows and stuff like that. Some people really know how to have a good time. I wish I did. I wish I was out there like, great, we're going to hit it and I'm going to, you know what I mean? Like, as if I had that attitude, I'd probably be happier about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. I'm always trapped inside of myself. There's always like a lot of like some people are like, you don't like being in a crowd. I'm like, I have a crowd inside of me right now.
There's a crowd in my head is busy enough.
I got 30 people in here and we're out of hors d'oeuvres. So I got enough fucking problems on the interior right now. So I can totally relate to that. And every time there is and then we'll get off this. I want to talk. I want to talk to you about directing and acting, but because I was like, this bit is so, because they always get pictures of you where you seem like you're like the dwarf that like is kind of like the backup dwarf, like you're on the side, you're smoky. You're like,
what is that guy? I don't know that character, but is he pissed?
Because he's a little pissed. Yeah, he's an understudy.
He's the understudy dwarf. Okay,
and not dwarf like you're a regular heighted guy, but it's like, and I shouldn't have said dwarf. I shouldn't say anything, but it was like, I don't know. And it's like they only put this chronology out of you that makes you seem like you're kind of bummed.
Well, here's the thing. If the only time, like when somebody's taking a picture of me, I'm bummed because usually I'm with my kids. I'm trying to go somewhere, and then there's 4 guys who are like, hey. And I'm like, hey man, every time, can you give me some time? I'm trying to be with my kids. Do you mind? Can you know what I mean? So the look on your face is kind of like. And then they go away and not taking the picture. You go inside and you're having a good time. But it's this selective experience of like, take a picture of somebody every time they're feeling irritated. They're going to look irritated.
Especially if you're the one irritating them.
Yeah, it's like, I'll come piss you off and then take your picture and then be like, look, I'm pissed off.
Right. That's exactly what that whole system is, really.
Right. But it's like useful because that's why, like, I'm sure you've seen on all this stuff like that's kind of the idea is like follow somebody around, antagonize them, and then hopefully they'll have like a nervous breakdown and go crazy on you, and then your video will be worth more money. Yeah,
it's that whole thing gets really Black Mirror-ish, man. It really gets kind of like,
I can remember a long time ago, years and years ago, like I really had a lot of empathy for Britney Spears because I remember that it seemed like. It's not somebody that I knew or hung out with, but I just like everybody else. You see all this shit that comes through, but having had my own experiences myself, I knew like these are people who are following her around in a time where she may or may not have been having difficulty. I don't know because I don't know her, but I do know that the cycle of having people harangue you and yell at you and hassle you and follow you, it kind of seemed like that itself was kind of whipping up the whole thing into a tizzy. So they're not helping. Well, yeah, and they're kind of poking a stick at it and going, look at it. And that's where it felt kind of like, that's the first time I thought, this is kind of a weird kind of unintentional, I think, culturally, but kind of collective cruelty where what's taken out of the image that you see are the people around, waving the stick at the tiger or poking on it or whatever, and all you see is the growling animal or whatever it is. But like that, a part of that is because somebody's coming around and hitting on it or whatever to make it get active, and that's where you think, okay, well, this isn't really news. It's not even real. It's not what would be happening if this effect wasn't taking place. Yeah, and that's where I thought, okay. the sort of wise thing to do is to just sort of like maintain one's perspective and try to remove yourself a little bit. It doesn't, which is what I would like to do. I think there's this sense that if you see someone's picture all the time, they must want you to be seeing it, right? Which is not the case at all for me. I'm self-conscious. I don't really want you to be seeing that. I don't see any reason for it.
It's horrible.
As an actor, it's no good for you because I don't really want people, if they watch a movie, to be like, that's not him, because I saw him yesterday eating lunch and I know he's who he really is. It gets in the way of you being able to create like the illusion. It's really hard work to create the illusion that this person, like the character in The Accountant 2, for example, is a real person in a real circumstance. And in order to get the audience to care about it, to laugh, to find it exciting and empathize with the character, they have to suspend disbelief. That's harder if you're constantly being shown something else. So I think it gets in the way. It makes it harder to be an actor. And it's also not good for you. People start to resent you if they see you too much, no matter whether or not you're trying to be seen. No, I don't want to do this. And nonetheless, like I remember 20 years ago going through an experience where it was like, it feels to the world like I'm trying to shove myself in their face. And nobody likes that, right? Nobody wants to be the camera hog, the guy who's trying to
get a bunch
new
of Ben
attention.
Affleck shoes or whatever.
And I'm like, man, you just leave me alone, and I would be much happier. So in a way, it also can damage your career. Although I think I don't pretend to understand the nuances and of social media and how to manage that as a celebrity, so I don't do it. Some people do it really well, and I think there is a difference now because it's like if you have 100 million followers, that's actually valuable and meaningful in a different way. I'm kind of old school, I guess, in a way of seeing
medium school, I think.
I'm middle school. Yes, exactly. I am a 7th grader.
That's true. But it is interesting, and it is kind of a sickness. I think a lot of people see that stuff as a sickness these days. But I do think it's fascinating about the suspension of disbelief, and that was something that used to be amazing about celebrities is like you never got to see them, right? And so you only got to see them, and actors, and you only got to see them on screen and in this way. And so you really envision them that way. I mean, you would almost be shocked if you saw a celebrity in person or an actor in person who didn't like Indiana Jones if he didn't have his hat and whip.
I was just going to say that. Is that when I was a kid, I kind of thought Harrison Ford was that guy. You know what I mean? Like, that's what Harrison Ford, I think he's probably the biggest, movie star of my childhood. And whether it was like, Indiana Jones or Star Wars, like he was the guy. And I kind of thought he was that guy. And so it's a little weird to see that guy just like, in his sneakers and his kind of raincoat walking around Brentwood. It's sort of like, of course it's disappointing or it's disillusioning or something because you have this thing in your mind that's people went to Steven Spielberg and George Lucas went to a whole, use all their talent, went to a bunch of work to make this dude look like Indiana Jones and Han Solo. And I think what I've seen now is like I actually don't even want to see like the actors that I really like. I don't want to go on your social because I don't want to know what you had for lunch because it just makes it harder for me to get into like what you're doing.
I love that, and I think that is a real directorial way to think. I mean, I can see that in your brain. I mean, I'm just a judge. I'm just a guy judging you. They just met in a room somewhere, but I never thought about that's how it is. That you want them kind of, Hollywood has almost bitten its own tail in that way because there's this underlying like valueless current really that's kind of like a very cheap currency.
It's Hollywood. It's Hollywood sort of adjacent, which is this side of media culture that profits from and circles, and there's a symbiotic relationship between Hollywood and obviously like here I am promoting my movie and running around, and now I don't want to go on like a tabloid and do that or whatever it is, but that becomes part of that culture too. And then you have like any interview show or all these, and you're right, in a sense it is Hollywood because if you do a movie at Universal, you'll see that person's doing all NBC, Comcast owned, talk shows and appearances, right? Like it's not a coincidence because when they do their presentation in the boardroom for Comcast to their shareholders, they go, look, we make these movies, we spend a lot of money, and then we get the stars and we plug them into all of our other shows that we also own, and there's a lot of synergy, so on and so forth. The idea, though, is like, okay, that's a kind of a tax that you end up sort of paying on your sort of life and the one hand, and on this thing that you're trying to build, which is something that connects with people and moves them, and that they want to go out to a fucking movie theater and pay good money to see. And it makes it a little bit harder than to have to kind of go around and do all that other stuff and be like, okay, well, that's not who I really am, and that's and to try to sort of be interesting and relevant in some other way that isn't really what you kind of even wanted to do. And so you're right. It's sort of part Hollywood and also kind of Hollywood adjacent. And it does eat its tail
in a way, because the acting and the creation, it's like looking at the beauty of a lake, right? It's like, this is picturesque, and this is like how they meant the waves to look, and there's a current here, and there's an inflow and outflow, and something landed in the water over here and left a ripple, and something else this is the B story, and there's a ripple. But then it's all this stuff under it, and it's almost starting to like kind of drain its own lake in a way.
It's a good metaphor, yeah, like the movie as the kind of lake, and the underneath of what's both what goes into it and what happens behind the scenes, and also what it takes. Same thing. And it does kind of like, it's interesting, like, if you overtax it, it lowers the lake, and all of a sudden it doesn't look like a beautiful lake. It starts to look like the low country marsh, and it pulls down. You start to see all the little black mud around the edges and the muck, and that's I don't know how to kind of balance that, but as a director, you're right. Like, I would say that's the principal way I've always kind of looked at this stuff. So it used to be that you had an actor and you had people knew less about them. And now a part of even casting for me is, what do people think of and expect this person to do and or be? And how can I have to rely on that and use that, but I also have the opportunity to kind of subvert that in a way. And so you have to be mindful, not just of the story you're telling, but what does the audience bring into the theater with them, or when they turn on television, and expect.
I think that's advanced thinking, to be honest with you. I really do.
It's just learned by lived experience mostly, find out, like, I even often make mistakes, like if I sort of, I did a movie where I had like a very blonde wig that was like a medieval.
Were you Ric Flair or something?
I wish I was Ric Flair. That would be spectacular. I'd love to play. It was actually a good movie. I really liked it. It was called The Last Duel. The point, and it was great director Ridley Scott, and he had this idea for it.
Oh yeah, Ridley Scott.
And there's the thing there you see, and I liked if no one had ever seen me or whatever, I thought that was really interesting. The problem is that people, I think what it did to people, first of all, it created noise around, look at this hair, is this different? And we know it's a wig. Right. And so now you look at it and you go, but I know he doesn't look like that. And so it causes you to kind of think it's false. That's an example of kind of probably not being able to go that far away from myself and still have people go, okay, I can sit aside what I know and just watch this story and like it and believe in it.
Dude, that's fast. That's insider baseball, man. No, it makes total sense. It makes total sense that would start to affect how we see things.